Welcome to At Scale, the Tennessee Achieves podcast. I'm Chrissy D'Alejandro, Tennessee Achieves President and CEO. Tennessee Achieves seeks to be humble but ambitious, disruptive yet intentional, and student-focused while also data-driven. We believe our mission is simple: enhance post-secondary opportunities and outcomes by providing holistic student supports rooted in community and accountability at scale. But the work is much more complex. Since 2008, we've broken some things in a great way. We've built many things, and we've created something that stems from the idea that a college credential can be a powerful equalizer. From helping individual students navigate the complexities of college to shaping the way Tennessee thinks about preparing and educating tomorrow's workforce, this podcast explores how Tennessee Achieves intersects with partners across our state and throughout the country. Let's dig in with state and national thought partners, business and industry leaders, college and K-12 representatives, and all the others in between that inform, inspire, and interconnect with Tennessee Achieves work. Here we go.
Welcome to the Tennessee Achieves podcast at scale. I'm Graham Thomas. Then I'm back for round two. We've kicked Chrissy out, and my first podcast, we had some new friends on, and this time, I learned a long time ago, I introduced Dr. Ashford, the president of Chattanooga State, at an event once, and said she was one of our oldest mentors, and she corrected me very quickly. She's not old. She's one of our longest serving, so we got some longtime friends on the podcast. Really looking forward to it today.
Yeah, I am too. Longtime partners. From an area of the state that's relatively new to me as an East Tennessee kid, moving to Middle Tennessee a couple of years ago. I've really gotten to know West Tennessee really well. And if there's one thing I've learned about weather, there's actually two things I would say. One is and this kind of goes against all of my friends in East Tennessee, but I think the nicest people in Tennessee are in West Tennessee. It's unbelievable. It's kind of the most welcoming part of the state. And two, I think West Tennessee is killing it in this sort of journey that we're on, this bridging education and workforce and everybody sort of sitting at the same table. What's going on in Northwest Tennessee, I think, is a model for not only the rest of the state, but the country. So I'm really excited to have our guests today. I'll allow you to introduce them, but excited for our guests today because I think there's going to be something for economic development practitioners, higher ed practitioners, K-12 practitioners to learn from our guests today.
Yeah, and I've got a personal connection to both UT Martin. My father is a UT Martin graduate, and my grandfather was born and raised in Obion County. I've got a great aunt, not quite in Obion County, but in New Bern, Tennessee, just down the road. So really excited today to welcome Dr. Yancy Freeman, the 12th Chancellor of UT Martin, and Lindsay Theobald, the President and CEO of the Obion County Joint Economic Development Corporation, to the podcast. Dr. Freeman has more than 30 years of experience in higher ed. Lindsay's been in workforce for, Lindsay, I know at least 15 plus years, maybe going on 20. Really excited to have you both here today.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
It's great to be here as well. It's great to see both of you, and great to see you, Lindsay.
Same.
We're really excited to jump in and start the conversation. Dr. Freeman, I love that UT Martin calls itself a small town university for people with big dreams. Talk to us a little bit about all the great things happening at UT Martin right now.
Yeah, I am so excited. We have so many new things that are starting. I started in August of 2023 in this role, and it feels like it's been nonstop since I hit the ground running. There are lots of things going on, including a new strategic plan that we have gotten approved by the board. It's a 2025 to 2030 strategic plan that's approved. It has everything, including bells and whistles. There are 5 goals, 24 strategies, and 55 targets. It will transform our institution overall. We've got a new strategic enrollment plan that we've just gotten approved by our board of trustees. Our goal, we're at 7,500 students now. We were at 7,000 students last year. Our goal is to get to 10,000 students. And unfortunately, I will not get there with just my good looks. And so we have a lot of work to do and a lot to promote and talk about with the campus. We are a campus in a rural community, though, and that speaks greatly to Martin, University of Tennessee at Martin, and what it means in terms of experience. We're a great campus that believes in personal interaction with students and engaging with students in a way that enriches their experience from an undergraduate and graduate perspective. So we want to engage them and make them feel very prepared for whatever the next step might be when they finish their degree, whether it is on the graduate school or professional school or into the world of work. So I feel like we do that really, really, really well at UTM.
Dr. Freeman, that 10,000 students goal, for those that are listening that maybe don't know, we share a boss. That sounds like a Randy Boyd goal.
Yeah, that was when I started, he said, "Gosh, I have a deal for you." And it's one of those sort of things where if they have a deal for you, it's probably not really a deal for you. And so when he came on, he said, "Gosh, I want you to set a bold, what does he call it? A BHAG, a bold,
BHAGs.
Yes, big, hairy, audacious goal."
Right.
Is what he called it. And so I said, "Gosh, why not? Let's just do 10,000 students." As I looked and did research about meeting workforce demand for just West Tennessee, if we combine the graduates from every higher ed institution, meaning the 4-year institutions, the 2-year community colleges, and all of the TCATs that are here in West Tennessee, we still fall short of meeting the workforce demand for West Tennessee. It means we've got to get more into the pipeline, right? We got to get more students, more graduates, more credentialed individuals into the pipeline so that we're ready and workforce ready for our side of the state. So the 10,000 number is one that feeds into that and helps us to get to where we need to be to prepare our state for all of the new economic development that's coming into this side of the state and really throughout the entire state.
So Lindsay, Chancellor Freeman put the ball on a tee for us there. So he's working on getting students both in the pipeline, earning a degree, ready for the workforce, and then that's where you come in. You're working with employers in the region. Talk to us a little bit about the work that you're doing and how the higher ed institutions in Northwest Tennessee play into your goals.
Well, it's funny, you mentioned Randy Boyd early on, and he's got ties to Obion County as well. So it's pretty amazing how many roads lead back to West Tennessee, Northwest Tennessee. And I remember when he first came into Obion County, we went to Jiffy Steamer, a local industry, and my mayor brought him in, and Uncle Ricky, his nephew or his uncle, said, we're going to do something. And he always said K to J, kindergarten to job. And he started talking about tnAchieves and, what became Tennessee Promise. And I was like, sign us up, sign Obion County up. I love the community. I love doing community development. I'm a UT Martin graduate, undergrad in business and IT, and then an MBA from UT Martin, and did not want to leave the area. Kind of became an internal volunteer and stumbled into the chamber world and community development, which quickly led into the economic development side. And I learned that working with our local industry, to me, is so gratifying because it's helping families have good qualities of life and careers. So, for me, being able to provide what they need in the form of human capital and our people, my natural extension is to reach out to Dr. Freeman at UT Martin and our partners at Dyersburg State and at the TCATs, and even crossing that invisible state line into Kentucky, Murray State, not, just our regional education areas, and talking about here's what's keeping our businesses up at night. Here are the jobs that are going unfilled, or here are the skills that they don't have. And how can we make this partnership work so that you're successful in education and creating those folks coming out that the businesses need, and therefore keeping our young people here? That is what my heart has broken for so many years, seeing our young people take off and leave and go to Nashville and Knoxville and everywhere else for work. And we're like, we have jobs here that can make excellent careers for you and your families.
Yeah. We're currently planning a rural impact celebration in Crossville. So we're partnering with Cliff Whiteman at TCAT Crossville, and we're also producing a Tennessee Achieves Rural Impact Report to really think about how is our work, impacted rural Tennessee. If it wasn't for rural Tennessee, Tennessee wouldn't be what it is. It is absolutely critical to what our state is, and rural economic development's unique, and you guys both are kind of in that position. If you had somebody listening to this podcast who is maybe not in Northwest Tennessee, but is on the Upper Cumberland or is in Northeast Tennessee, and they're working these relationships, what are you hearing from rural employers? What is it that they are looking for and are needing?
Yeah.
I mean, go. Usually, you always hear work ethic, knowing what those soft skills are and whatnot. But I'm finding, and I've been preaching it. As I said, I've got a daughter that's about to start at UT Martin in the fall. So, for the last 17 years, I've been preaching, get a job, do something, volunteer, get out there, figure out what's out there, figure out what you enjoy doing, what you don't like doing. I call it career elimination. Even if you're not getting paid to do it, go do it. And, so that hopefully by the time she's thinking about when she gets to college, at least we're not going down paths of you get into a semester, maybe 5 semesters, and you're like, this is not what I want to do, which is not good for the higher education system either, to have students to kind of, derail, even though I know that's kind of what life is about. But at least, I'm like, you please just get out there and do something. And in that spirit of volunteering, I said, you never know who you're going to be next to. You might be next to a CEO. You might be next to a chancellor when you're out there. And it's just a matter of just talking. But I have seen a lot of her and her friends, they work more than we did as children. So I have seen some generational changes in how younger people are going to work and doing jobs. And I think that's, work tying into Tennessee Promise having the community service. Once somebody gets in somewhere and volunteers, doors just start to open, which is why I think the community service piece of the program is so important.
Yeah, I love that career elimination. We have a job shadow opportunity that coincides with the community service requirement. Students can job shadow for those required hours, and Chancellor Freeman, UT Martin, is a job shadow partner for us. And we've got some ideas that we're going to probably bring to you pretty soon. We hosted a job shadow expo at Deloitte in Nashville and brought in a lot of employers to Deloitte, where they didn't have to plan an entire day's worth of information. They could plan a couple hours, and allowed the sort of expo to happen. So I think we're going to try to bring something like that. If you're open to it,
we would love it. Yeah,
West Tennessee.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love it. Would be excited to do it. And as many times as we get to have business and industry on our campus, and also pair them with students who are interested in a number of different careers, you can sign us up to do it.
That sounds awesome. I agree, Lindsay. It sounds like, to me, one of the biggest challenges is just for this exposure, career exploration or elimination, however you want to look at it, trying to figure out what it is that you want to do. But I do really like that.
I'll just mention one thing on top of what Lindsay has said. I think that a part of this for us also is just openly talking with employers about what types of skills students need, right? In higher ed, sometimes we get a really bad rap for teaching much of the theoretical stuff and not talking about some of the practical application of it in the workplace and what's needed. And so we try to stay very closely linked to employers as much as we can to ensure that, okay, what do students really need to know? And what's the real story about what they need to learn when they're in the classroom, so that we're supporting their readiness when they get out to start working. It's one thing to really talk about, in engineering, how a bridge is built and what happens with a bridge being built. It's something else to, get out there and really have to do the design of it and to understand land mass and how you navigate and what's possible. And so ensuring that we are communicating and working with employers to know what's really necessary so that they really can be prepared. It's easy for me to say, oh gosh, UTM is preparing students for the workplace.
Right.
I want employers out there saying the same thing because we're communicating and talking with them. So that's part of what we work on. When you ask, what do employers want? What are they saying? That's what they're saying. They want a ready-made workforce that doesn't require a lot of training when they get on the job. There might be a way that they do things that's okay, but preparing them in a way that they have the skills, knowledge, and ability to do what's necessary when they start.
Yeah, in this podcasting journey we've been on, we've talked to a couple of people from around the country who are thinking about this too. We talked to Harvard, someone that works at Harvard, and they have a project called Project on the Workforce. Some of you guys may have seen them. Natalie Gosneo is the person, and she spoke at a SCORE event earlier this year too. And she talked about how employers will often know what they need like 5 years in advance, and that we all are, responding in real time. But we're kind of late to the game, and that the employer knows about it a long time before, but they've never been at the table to have these conversations, and we're starting now to change that and invite them to the table. So that's great to hear.
Yeah, it's important.
Well, you just stole my thunder on the thoughts about the magic ball there, because my big thing is always like, get the employers to tell me what their job forecasts are now. So if they're not communicating with Dr. Freeman, let me do it. That's what I'm here for. And a lot of the times, business and industry altogether are just so busy working, making widgets, making chicken nuggets, whatever it is, that they don't think to, even though they know what that forecast is, there's a gap between they know and higher education or whatever it is needs to know. So, I look at it as my job to fill that gap.
And Lindsay, I'm going to go back to something you mentioned earlier. I remember early in my tnAchieves career, came to Obion County with Chrissy and Randy and Mike Ragsdale. We came and we met with your Rotary Club, who raises, thousands and thousands. I want to say well over $100,000 every year in scholarship funds. And then Obion County every single year meets their mentor goal. Weakley County was typically our first county to meet the mentor goal. There's a former county mayor who's on your staff now, Chancellor, who is very competitive about meeting that mentor goal. And so I think a lot of times we talk about some of the challenges we face in rural Tennessee, but you've got these communities that are very tight knit and clearly very supportive of their students. They just seem to get it. Talk a little bit about that. What's the advantage of that, and how have you kind of been able to weave that that mindset or that mentality throughout your community, that higher ed and workforce are intertwined and important?
I just believe that the benefit of a rural area and a small community is we all know each other just kind of naturally. And I'm kind of a pest a little bit with my business and industry. Like, I make sure I have their cell phone numbers and things in case of emergency, but I, try to be valuable enough for that when they think about things, problems, issues, and whatnot, that they think to call me. Even if I don't know the answer, I will find an answer. And, same on the higher ed side of things. I want to be top of mind when they start thinking about what can we do? How can we do it? Well, let's call our local chamber and economic development organization, because they historically have a pulse on what's happening in the community down at the grassroots level. So, back to your question about if somebody else is listening somewhere else, it's be that resource, but find a way to make yourself top of mind in conversations, and just call me first. Let me know what's happening so that I can quickly start circling the wagons, because it is easy in a rural area to call healthcare, to call education, to call industry, and they'll show up. They will show up. I had a prospect visit maybe a year and a half ago, and they needed all levels, certificates, people with high school education, all the way up to the 4-year university. And I called, and I had the dean of Dr. Bushhouse, who is your dean
in
natural science. Yes. Yeah. I had Dr. Cook, the president of Dyersburg State, and I had Yolanda Jones, the president of TCAT Northwest, and both school systems at the table. I mean, within, you know, you don't get much notice when they're coming for a visit. So, you know, they all showed up, all sat in the same room. I did not script them, but you would have thought that I scripted everybody in that room because they all believe in who we are and what we have as a rural community, and they love it. And it just played beautifully. And I didn't have to arm wrestle anybody to show up. They wanted to be there and they brought their A game. So, that's a benefit to being in a rural area is we're all in it together. And I think that is a genuine, authentic mindset.
It is absolutely that. I agree with you 1,000,000%, Lindsay. I would agree that the folks in this area care deeply about the people in this community, about the progress of this community, and want to see it prosper and do really, really well. And so I've not had an opportunity or a chance to see or witness where I make a call and you can't line up 10 people, you know, to do whatever it is, whatever challenge it might be, all the way from, you know, entry level folks into an organization, all the way up to the CEO. Folks are really willing to dig in to ensure that this community prospers. And so I feel very fortunate to live here and to be here and to work in a place that has so much promise and is delivering on that promise, if you will, as we continue to think about our community.
Yeah, that's been my experience as like someone that's not from West Tennessee. I said that from the top, but it's like when you go to Dyersburg or you go to New Bern or Martin, everyone seems to just really love living in Northwest Tennessee and want to see it do well. And I think that's why we always seem to meet our mentor goal in West Tennessee, because it's not just the people on the call who care. It's the entire community sees it as a value add. And that to me is just really, really cool.
That's where you're going with the Rotary scholarships, Graham. You know, sometimes you have the people, you have the energy, and what you lack is the funding, you know, and I think that's where our Rotary Club and the business leaders in that club saw a void that they could fill. And so now I'm blessed to be able to actually serve on the scholarship committee. So I get to sit in and interview those students, and I love it. And Dr. Freeman, I'll tell you, this year I've never heard more students that are going to UT Martin than I have in the year. So kudos to that. We're trying to help as much as we can, but yes, they've given millions of dollars in scholarships over the year to Obion County students.
Awesome.
As you are both talking, the word that keeps like popping into my head is collaboration. And I think that we have, to our detriment, a lot of times higher ed gets really competitive. But Dr. Freeman, you talked about it. If every student in Northwest Tennessee went to college and graduated, you still don't have the workforce, potentially still don't have the workforce that you need. And so talk about how you are able to collaborate with the community colleges and the TCATs and the private institutions, and like, how are you able to do that in a way that the adults being competitive doesn't get in the way of success for students?
Yeah, I will say that I cheer for those institutions to do well, right? I hope and support and want to see those institutions do well. All of them, our community college partners, as well as our TCAT partners that are out there. Secondary education is really, really important. They're feeding into the students who are going to be enrolled on our campuses. And so we want to make sure that if there's something we can do to support secondary education in Northwest Tennessee, why wouldn't we do that? You know, I mean, it just makes perfect sense for us to do it. And so we do a number of things, everything from offering dual enrollment courses across the state, in particular in Northwest Tennessee. Those courses give high school students a chance to earn college credit and really dip their toe into what college level coursework is like before they get to our campus. And so we do dual enrollment credit for those students, to articulation agreements that make it really easy for students to transfer from a community college to UT Martin. It is really important. I mean, sometimes it's hard to make that transition. And so the easier that we can make it for students to understand this course transfers as this course, and this means you have X courses left to complete your bachelor's degree, that makes it easy for them to understand it. I will say this, we are, to my knowledge, we are the first four-year institution to have a articulation agreement with not just the community college, but also with the TCAT. So we've made an agreement with TCAT to offer our ag program, digital agronomy program to the TCAT center. So students finish that first year at the TCAT, they get about 30 hours. They can transfer on to the two-year institution, complete an associate degree, and then transfer to UTM to complete the four-year degree. The first two agreements that we set forward have worked so well that the president for Dr. Tidings, the president for the Tennessee Board of Regents, has said, we want this to expand to all of the community colleges and TCATs across the entire state. And so for us, that's a win-win. If we can continue to educate the citizens of this state and continue to prepare them and give them credentials to make them a better sort of citizen across the state, then why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't I cheer for my colleagues and partners at the other institutions to do really, really well? And selfishly, I'm hoping that we can convince them to come here after they, finish at TCAT and finish at the two-year school. I'm hoping we can selfishly convince them to come here and do a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. So there is always good cheer, always promise, always positivity as it relates to our other higher ed colleagues.
And Lindsay, I mean, it's got to be refreshing for the business and industry partners that are looking to hire these students.
100%. It's you just talking about that, this year, my daughter and one other person did work-based learning in high school. So they left and, for about 2 hours out of the day, they left at the end of the day and went to work. And the other student was in welding and really had no desire to go to college of any type after high school. He was just going to go weld. That's what he liked to do, and he had that opportunity to work some more and get a little more ingratiated with the business. And now he is going into a post-secondary institution because he had that opportunity to go do the work and do it at a, more than he had been. So again, it just goes back to the partnerships, getting the educational secondary, post-secondary, ingratiated with business, allowing the students to be exposed in some capacity. Then once they get into that TCAT, they're like, oh, I really do like this piece of it. Let me see if I can go on to that, get an associate's degree, and then go on and get a bachelor's. That there's a natural progression, especially like through our mechatronics program at Obion County Central. They have an agreement with UT Martin for those students, and that path for some of those students includes your TCATs and your Dyersburg States and ultimately UT Martin. So we're hoping to just make it seamless all the way from when they leave a high school and they go into a higher learning institution, that it's seamless.
Well, and even less daunting in some ways, right? Because sometimes you have someone who says, I'm not doing that. I was not built to do higher ed or post-secondary at all, and this is just not in the cards for me. And then they take one course and they figure out, oh my goodness, maybe I can do this, right? And so you're able to kind of get them, and they don't lose anything when they go and they do a credential at TCAT, and then when they go and they do a associate degree at the community college. And so they see progress and they see sort of this light at the end of a tunnel, and they know that they can finish, and it encourages them, in my mind at least, to know that I can do this. I've done this and done it really well. I can keep going.
And we've talked a lot about this career exploration, and you guys are making it easy. I mean, it sounds like you guys have really kind of figured out that, like, the secret in Northwest Tennessee, that you're all communicating, you're working together. So how are you thinking about getting these opportunities in front of us? Like, I think back to my college career. Both of my parents went to college. I was a student that should go and graduate and do all those things, and I did. But I went to college because it was just like the next thing. A lot of the students that we're working with are the first in their families to go. I wasn't thinking about a career when I was in college. I don't think a lot of our students have always connected those dots. So how are you providing those opportunities?
Well, I know that Union City school system, part of the governor's give grants, they used it to hire a career counselor, and we partnered with them and created the leadership innovation team. And they picked 2 students from 8th grade to 12th grade from each of those grades. And about, I think, 4 to 5 times a year throughout the school year, we partner with them and we take those students into businesses. And we started off with Tyson, because Tyson Foods is the largest employer in the region. They make chicken McNuggets for McDonald's. It's just a fun, neat place. But in reality, it's food processing, it's manufacturing. But, you know, they have accountants, they have HR people, they have engineers, they have HVAC technicians, they have a chaplain, they have nurses, like just letting them know what all is there. And then they tell us, what do they want to go see next? Well, let's go to healthcare. We can take them to Baptist Hospital. They can see ER, they can see lab, they can see mammography, you know, just all the various pieces in one place. And then we've been taking them to a local funeral home. They love it. They love seeing what's out there. And then we can go backwards and start talking about what's the pathway to get there. So it's just a matter of exposure. At the end of the day, it's the exposure and then getting them thinking, ooh, I like that. How do I get there? You know, and as Dr. Freeman said, that tunnel might not even exist at first because they didn't know they could do it. And then maybe they had a dual enrollment class in high school. Oh, I've got a college credit now. Or, you know, that's the beginning. The tunnel might get longer for them because they've decided they do want to go all the way to that 4-year degree. But it's really just getting them to think about what it is they enjoy and where they're going to thrive. And then let's go backwards and figure out that career and education pathway.
Yeah, what Lindsay's talking about in higher ed, we call experiential learning. It's an opportunity to get into the field and to see it and to dive in and get expertise, in the area. One of the things that I am proud of with UTM is we do that better than any institution I've ever seen. Oh my goodness. I mean, we give students real life opportunities to do whatever it is they say that they want to do in their life and in their career. Our students in meteorology went to the Great Plains last May, and they chased an EF4 tornado. It is not what I would do for fun, but it is something that they had a really good time and opportunity to go see weather patterns and how it works and to understand more about tornadoes because you're there and you see it. In nursing, the very first nursing course that they take, they're doing clinical hours. In education, they're doing the same thing. Our ag students, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on talking about ag, but our ag students do a yearly, an annual study abroad trip to Kenya, and they work with a water-stricken area with a water-stricken tribe in Kenya, and they teach them about water conservation. You know, they spend 2 or 3 weeks in Kenya and they teach them about water conservation. Some of these students have never even been on a plane.
Totally.
Right. And so they get to go to Africa, to the continent of Africa, and teach folks about what they've learned here at UTM. It's giving them real life experience and real life opportunities to engage in something that they say that they want to do for the rest of their lives. And so it's just, the experience is really, really important. It's the secret to the sauce. If I were given that guidance or recommendation out, I don't want everybody to copy it, but I'm just teasing. Okay. But it's the secret to the sauce in preparation for students as they finish, and work through post-secondary education.
Yeah. And chamber and economic development world, we do a lot of R&D, rip off and duplicate. So, that's the piece of advice I give. Find somebody that's doing something you like. When we were at Rotary one day, somebody from Bridgestone came and spoke, and it started inspiring us to talk mechatronics. So after that Rotary Club meeting, myself, the high school counselor, the assistant to the superintendent, And the CTE director packed up in the car and drove to Motlow State and the high school in Warren County to see how they had partnered with Motlow State with their mechatronics program. And we had a private investor who also invested in UT Martin STEM building over there and said, I would pay for half the equipment for this program if the county commission would agree to pay the other halves, like, I don't know, to the tune of 10 or 50,000 at the time. I don't know, but we became one of the first high schools to have a mechatronics program. And it all started from a presentation at Rotary, your education people that were at Rotary, myself, and private donation. And I mean, it's been beautiful. And now it's expanded. The room's doubled in size. And, not just every student gets into that program. They vet them, their math grades and whatnot. So, you're getting the people that are equipped and able to go into that field. And then hopefully we're pushing them all the way to and through UT Martin.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsay, you talked earlier about having a group of people in a room, and sometimes it just feels like it's scripted. I was going to ask you both as we're kind of wrapping up here to give your advice, and you just did it. So I don't have to even ask the question, but I hope that for people for the audience listening today, that, I hope the secret's out, because I think that Northwest Tennessee has got it figured out. I said this earlier, but that spirit of collaboration between K-12, all the higher ed institutions and workforce. Sounds like you guys really have it going on. And so we're so grateful that you decided to agree to come on and chat with us today. And I hope that our partners in the other regions around the state and those of our partners out of the state do some of that R&D that you talked about, Lindsay. I mean, we really appreciate you both coming on and sharing all the great things that are happening in West Tennessee.
It's a great place to be. So you better watch out for Northwest Tennessee. We're coming.
And it's a pleasure. You all have brought so much into our communities with the Tennessee Achieves, Tennessee Promise. And I mean, you're breaking generational cycles of poverty and other things. So that's why I've been dedicated to this program for so many years, because I believe, I was one of those students that could have used that back when I was in high school. So thank you for the work that you all do, but more so thank you for tapping into those of us around the state and letting us share our stories so that we can share our ideas. We'll come see you. We love a good road trip, and or come see us. We love to host, and anytime, anything that we can do, to share, but also learn from others. That's really, like you said, collaboration, communication. We're here and we want to share.
I've said it for years. My favorite part of this job is traveling around the state and finding great people doing amazing work. And both of you are such great partners in this work. And we just couldn't be more appreciative. And thank you again for making time today. We really appreciate everything that you do for us.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
You've enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of At Scale, the Tennessee Achieves podcast. Each conversation is a step toward a deeper understanding of how we can collectively expand opportunity and increase post-secondary access and success for all students in Tennessee. To continue following this work, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Subscribing ensures you never miss an episode, and your rating or review helps others discover the stories and insights that we'll share. Together, we're not only supporting students, we're building Tennessee's future workforce. Thank you for listening.